Hello, I'm Alexander Cepeda,
And I'm Jalen Michael.
and welcome to the Film School Snobs podcast. This is our third episode now, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about Godzilla and Rocketman, the two movies that came out over the weekend. So, Jalen, how's everything been going with you?
Everything's been well. There's two movies in the summer blockbuster season, so excited to talk about it. How
Same
about you?
here. Same here. Yeah, I just got out of the movies just now. Saw Rocketman and Godzilla back to back. I have a lot of thoughts on both, so let's get started on the conversation. So let's start off with the big one this weekend, Godzilla.
Yeah.
After those trailers, I was so hyped. Like the visuals, the cinematography, all looked great, and
hmm
this was such a big letdown for me. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I'll say for my expectations, they weren't really built up that much because I enjoyed the last one that came out in 2014. But
Mm.
this one, I was just expecting to see, like we were saying earlier, just fun monster fights, and yeah, it let me down on that aspect too. I was bored throughout this entire movie.
Yeah, no, it's like I don't understand how you make giant monster fights really boring. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because my main issue, so like you have this whole thing about the family plot,
Mm,
which it's honestly like, incredibly dull. A lot of the dialogue between them is like really cringy,
oh yeah.
and like there's like one scene where the mom is just like explaining like her evil plan and whatnot, and like they're going back and forth, and it's just like, wow, this is written really terribly.
Yeah, no, it's probably the dialogue in this film. I was expecting it because the last one didn't have great dialogue either.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, when you mix that in with the story they're trying to tell, it's just awful.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, before we even go into like just tearing this film apart, I will say the one thing positive I have to say about the film. I thought it was visually impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For all the complaints that who did it again? Gareth Edwards did the last one, right?
Yeah, he did the last one.
Yeah, so for all the complaints, I get it. Like he was kind of teasing throughout the movie, didn't show enough Godzilla. This one they show you everything really. Like doesn't shy away from any of that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
I give
You
you
know,
that part.
they show a lot of Godzilla. Like a lot of the special effects are great. I love the use of color. Like a lot of the shots are really nice.
Oh yeah,
But I just like I don't know. I feel like a lot of those are just like a lot of trailer shots, and then
yeah,
other than that, they don't really deliver on any interesting monster fights.
yeah. That's like about it for my like positives about the movie. Because I'll say like after that first fight, which I thought was really dope, like the way it built up to that.
Mm.
It's high tension, it's filmed wonderful. Everything else after that kind of just became fatigued to it, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just uninteresting, at least for my part.
Because I mean, did you watch Skull Island that came out? I believe 2 years ago.
Yeah, actually, I still haven't seen that yet.
You still haven't seen that yet? Because it's really interesting. So in the next movie, if they make a next movie, because this movie bombed apparently.
Hmm.
But like Godzilla is supposed to fight King Kong,
Right,
and I'm watching Kong Skull Island, and that movie like it has its flaws, but it's visually interesting, and the monster fights they go all out with that. It's like it's
right,
very schlocky. It's just all
mm,
about Godzilla beating up these giant monsters, and it's awesome.
right,
And so I don't understand what was missing with this one. You had all the classic Godzilla villains, King Ghidorah, Rodan, and then you also had Mothra in there,
right.
and it's just boring somehow.
Yeah, I think a large part of that's really just it's due to the story, I'd say, because
Mhm.
it revolves around like you were saying earlier, this plan that Vera what's her name, Farmiga's character, which I don't want to go too much into spoilers, but she has this whole plan that is very Thanos esque,
Yeah.
and it's just way too bizarre for you to take anything seriously.
Mm.
Which I mean, it's a Godzilla film, yeah, sure, but it focuses too much on these characters that it's too stupid.
Yeah.
So to
Like
draw attention to.
even in the monster fights, like I feel like they cut away to the main characters like way too often, and
Hmm.
to the point where it's like it's kind of losing focus on what it wants to be. Do you want to be the schlocky monster movie, or do you want to just mainly focus on humans?
Right,
And I'm not the biggest Godzilla fan. I've seen like the very first 1954 one, and then I saw the 2014 one, like parts of the '98 remake.
right.
And like I understand like the whole thing about Godzilla is just yeah, it's just dudes in like these rubber costumes fighting each other. And so like when you make a Godzilla movie, it's just supposed to be all about all out monster fights.
Yeah, destruction.
Yeah. And it seems like with these they want to go somewhere a lot more serious where like I could see where they're going, but it just doesn't land for me.
Yeah, I don't think it. I don't think it paid off well. And complete honestly, like I was watching this movie, I was thinking it's like, oh crap, this is like this summer's Transformers in a
Mhm.
sense, where you have these big, great special effects here, but they focus on characters that are just not developed whatsoever.
Yeah. But like the one thing I will give the Transformers movie is like that it has over this. Like I think the Transformer movies are way worse than this. But like they go all out with the robot fights. Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, like I like the first one. The first one's okay, then the rest are
Yeah.
but like they go all out with those giant robot fights. And like they'll cut back to the humans every now and then, but it's mainly about those robot fights because they know that's what people showed up to see.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that's just like my biggest complaint with the new Godzilla movie. Like it's just very little Godzilla somehow, some way. Even though like after all the complaints of the first movie, and then like it's all this boring human drama.
Yeah. And then it wouldn't be too bad if the human drama was actually like developed. Like
Hmm.
you have Kyle Chandler. He's plays like the leading man here, and you know, they set his character up to be an animal specialist who I guess he studies communications between them or something like that.
Hmm.
And then they try to like set him up with a backstory to, for you to get that emotional investment to it, but it just doesn't lead to anything. Like it's
Yeah,
just undeveloped, and he spends the whole movie trying to get back to his wife and kid, but you don't care about any of them, so
mhm.
you just care about Godzilla, and they refuse to, focus on that for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just really frustrating. Like I understand that they want to go take this more serious route, and like
Hmm.
there is merit to that. You can make a really good movie out of that, but like I said, it just all falls flat, and so. I don't know. It just turns into like a really boring and disappointing movie. Like little bits of fun action, but other than that, it's nothing special really.
Yeah. What do you think about the supporting cast? Because you had Ken Watanabe in here. You had Thomas Middleditch, O'Shea Jackson Jr. Like, what do you think of all those guys? You thought they added anything to the film, or?
I mean, the characters themselves were just like really bland. I will say the one that was really annoying was Bradley Whitford.
Oh,
Um, oh my god, that guy just I wanted him to shut up throughout the entire thing. Like the guy says, "Oh my god," and he's like,
yeah.
"Godzilla."
Oh my god.
Like no, just no. Like even though camp in a sillier movie that could have totally worked and got a big laugh.
Yeah, that's
Um,
like jokes like that. Yeah, like you said, if it was campy enough, but they kind of set itself up to be super serious, and you throw that line in there, it's like, all right, what the hell?
yeah. Ken Watanabe was really good in this movie. He didn't have like an epic moment like in the last Godzilla movie where he's like, "Let them fight."
Oh yeah.
Um, they had Tywin Lannister in here. What's his name? Charles Dance.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I thought he gave a really good performance. He was basically just doing Tywin again.
Pretty
Um,
much.
yeah, but yeah, like the overall like the supporting cast was really good. They just aren't given much.
Yeah, I agree. In agreement with that. Going back to Bradley Whitford, I actually read an interview he did, and apparently he tried to model his character after Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty.
Really?
I did not get that at all while watching it. I don't know if you did or not, but
No, I didn't get that at all. I just like I saw this like 50-year-old dude who's just like oh like really silly. Because the thing with Rick Sanchez is that he's more like he's very sarcastic. He just doesn't care about people at all.
exactly.
And this guy he was just like oh yeah I'm the funny one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was really like, but beyond, I mean, I'd say for every single character, there's no development beyond any of them
Mhm.
besides like one specific trait between each character. It's kind
Yeah.
of disappointing, but they're here for Godzilla, and on that aspect, I think it kind of delivers on some parts, but for the most part, yeah, I wasn't interested at all.
Yeah. I don't know. They should have just gone more all out with the monster fights. Go the same route they went with Kong Skull Island, make it campier,
Right.
indulge more in the monster fights. Who cares about the characters at all, honestly?
Hmm.
Just go all out, have them destroy stuff, have them fight each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's another thing too. Like, I mean, I know they had like well, apparently there was a post-credit scene. I missed that one, but
Mhm.
like they didn't really set that much up to connect it for this Godzilla versus Kong movie either, which I'm
Yeah, there's
actually
like
surprised.
there's like little things in here where like they show like snippets of King
Right.
Kong, And
Yeah,
then like in the first credit scene, like in the
oh, during the
credits, right?
credits. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they just like there's like little articles they show of like, oh, all the Titans are moving towards Skull Island and stuff.
Right.
And then when you go to the post credit scene, I like my brother's like, oh, why are we waiting for this? I'm like, oh, they're gonna show something to do with King Kong,
Hmm.
and then they don't set that up. They set up something completely different. Do you want to go into spoilers for this
Oh
movie?
yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is your spoiler warning right now. If you haven't seen King of Monsters, go see it or don't. You're probably better off not. Go stay
Yeah.
home and watch Pacific Rim. Giant robots, giant monsters, they fight and they go all out. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Um, but yeah, spoiler warning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So at the end of at the in the post credit scene, you
Hmm.
have Tywin Lannister he finds King Ghidorah's head, the one that was like ripped off by Godzilla in their second fight,
Okay.
and he buys it off these fishermen. And I don't know what they're setting up with that. I don't know much about Godzilla lore, so I don't know if like they can make another King Ghidorah from that one severed head. But yeah, they don't go anywhere near setting up King Kong versus Godzilla.
That's awkward.
Yeah.
It's very
Uh,
awkward scene.
yeah, and especially since this movie isn't doing that all that well financially, like this we might be seeing the end of this franchise.
Yeah. Actually, well, yeah, I did notice. I read earlier, the box office report brought in under the studio's expectations, but I
Yeah.
heard they're actually already into production onto the movie because it's
Mhm.
supposed to come out next March.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
This is because it's even owned by Warner Brothers, and this is Batman v Superman all over
uh,
again. You got this one movie, like everyone was betting on this one succeeding, and then like you already started a production on the next movie, and
mhm.
then it underwhelms, and now they're gonna be like, well, what do we do now?
I think, well, they could start by getting a new screenwriter because
Oh yeah,
I believe the director's name's Michael.
Mike
I can't,
Dortnoy or something.
yeah, something like. I'm looking at his name
Michael Doherty or Dorte, I don't know.
but well, however you pronounce it. Yeah, I wasn't really too fond. Like directional wise, I think he set up a lot of great shots, and visually, like I said, it's impressive. But he also
Mhm.
did the screenplay or co-wrote the screenplay for it, and yeah, it's definitely not his strong suit. It seems like so.
Yeah. Well, he directed Trick or Treat, which I haven't seen, but he also directed Krampus, which I really love. Like that's a Christmas classic. It's like like because like all the puppetry and that's really great. There's some really good scares in there. Um, so yeah, that movie is just a whole lot of fun. So I was really expecting a lot from this one, and yeah, no, I just got really bored.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie, there's like two great things that came out of this movie for me personally.
Okay.
The one part was when King Ghidorah grew his head back, and I leaned over
Oh
to my
yeah.
other brother and I said, "Hail Hydra."
Oh
And the second best thing to come out of the song is the Serge Tankian cover of Godzilla by the
yeah.
Ghostly Quote. They were playing that song over the credits, and man,
Yeah.
that song is awesome.
I remember you telling me about it when it first came out.
Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of that singer. He's in one of my favorite bands, System of a Down,
Okay.
and he has like such a unique voice. Like it's very unorthodox, but it just works so well.
Hmm.
And that song, his cover is just really good. He also did a cover of "The Reigns of Castamere" on the new Game of Thrones soundtrack. So
Oh, right, right. I did listen to that actually. Yeah, that one
yeah,
was pretty.
yeah, he's a really talented singer. So that cover was like really cool.
Yeah, it was a cool song too. Like I guess that was a highlight for me too. I had good movie to walk out the theater of, good music to walk out the theater of. So
Oh yeah,
that helps.
and now I have that on my playlist. I'm listening to that all the time.
Yeah,
Well, there was one good thing to come out of this movie.
yeah, yeah. I guess just for my part, there wasn't really much I grew attached to in this film. Like I said, the first fight I thought was cool.
Hmm.
Everything after that kind of just went downhill fast. Even Millie Bobby Brown, I love her in Stranger Things, but they didn't
She's
really give her much in
Yeah,
this.
she's not given much to do at all.
Yeah, so that was disappointing. But
Uh,
yeah, I don't know. I guess on the same way that Jurassic World works as like a dumb, fun summer blockbuster, you
mhm.
get that in bits and pieces here. But overall, yeah, it's disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, but I even feel like something like Jurassic World indulges more into the dinosaur fights and whatnot.
Right.
And so just like when you get this and like you see Godzilla fight King Ghidorah, it's nothing
Mhm.
special. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing really all that great about the fight.
yeah, even like the choreography is other fight too. Like, I mean, just the design of Godzilla himself, it's very limited as to what he can with his, physical appearance. He breathes fire and it looks cool, but outside of that, you've seen one fight, you've seen them all.
Yeah, because even in Kong Skull Island, like when you see King Kong fight, like he has like a very slimmer design, and
Right.
so he's walking on his 2 feet, and like he's like he's a gorilla, so
Yeah,
he
yeah.
walks around like a normal gorilla, and like he's over here like he's swinging, he's like punching these things, he's like ripping them apart, and it's like a lot more frenetic, a lot more kinetic, and
Right.
then these monster fights just seem really slow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was like the big thing for me too. But even that too, like it seemed like Godzilla, like he would move slow, and then when it's time to charge into battle, then he just picks up speed somehow, and then when they fight, then it's back to slow motion.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, it's not very consistent as to what you wanted to aim for here, but
yeah. And I feel like in terms of like the choreography and whatnot, the only moves Godzilla has is biting the monster, hitting the monster with his tail, and then breathing fire. Yeah. And other than that, there's not much variety. And I feel like that's like very important when you're making an action scene. You can't just do the same moves over and over again. Otherwise, it's gonna get boring.
Yeah, because I mean, I haven't played it for myself, but I know they came out with a Godzilla game out on PS4 like a few years ago. And my friend, he was telling me like, yeah, it's very limited action in this game. It's like you do the same thing over and over again. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much the movie here.
Yeah.
Same thing over and over again.
And I think the movie shoots for like some interesting themes about like how we kind of like depend on Godzilla or like the people, like the eco-terrorists are like, yeah, I know they should take over. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of want to like rewrite this movie so bad because honestly, I think I was watching this movie and a lot of the themes like seem somewhat Lovecraftian. Have you ever read any of H.P. Lovecraft's stuff?
I actually haven't.
You haven't? I recommend it. Like they're kind of old, so like it's like a bit of a, I don't want to say dull read, but like it's kind of hard to get through.
Okay.
Like that's like it brings up some really interesting themes because like his whole thing was like there are all these like ancient monsters that lived on the earth before us, and whenever we discovered them, humans would a human couldn't comprehend it because it would drive them so mad because the whole idea of humans are just like so non-important into like in the grand scheme of the universe. And I feel like, with a lot of things they touch on, like how, like, they used to worship Godzilla and like King Ghidorah and whatnot. Like, I feel like you could have really touched on a lot of those themes with a Godzilla movie. And like they tried to a little bit with this one, but it just falls flat.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is actually interesting. And, I kind of picked up on what they were trying to go for in this film. Especially like there's a lot of environmental preachiness that they try to go for, but I don't think it's really like the right place or time for this movie because it's people are here to see the monsters fight.
Yeah.
Not saying that there isn't room for them to try to go deep with it, but yeah, they missed the mark with this badly.
Yeah, and they're trying to do so much at once, and each little thing they try just doesn't work.
I did it had potential too, because I did like how they set up each monster with their globe trotting, and each place that they were visiting featured like the different monsters that they were going to.
Yeah,
it could have been cool introductions for that, but they just don't do anything with it after that. So it's unfortunate, but
yeah. Because like this, like a lot of the stuff they show is like post-apocalyptic kaiju fights. And I feel like if they explored more of that instead of, well, let's go follow these boring people so they can go find Godzilla. Like, no, show me the post-apocalyptic kaiju fights. I want to see that.
Exactly. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. But no, we're just going to follow these boring military people, and they're going to go find Godzilla, and oh well.
The G-Team.
Yeah. So any final thoughts on Godzilla?
Yeah, I mean, like just to reiterate, as a typical blockbuster, I mean, it works in bits and pieces, but for me, this is not my thing. I'm sure it works for a lot of people out there. The Rotten Tomato score is actually surprisingly high for the audience score. Which,
yeah, I think it's at like 90%.
Yeah. Which I guess that's from the new verified system they got. But like I said, on the scale of like Transformers and Jurassic World, like for dumb, shocky fun, it's like it doesn't really reach those heights, but it's almost there. Yeah. It's nothing I would want to see again, but I'm sure it works for Godzilla fans out there.
Yeah. I'd say if you want to see a cool monster fight, watch Jurassic World. Even watch the original Jurassic Park. That does it way better.
Hmm.
Watch Pacific Rim. Watch Kong Skull Island. This isn't going to deliver on anything you want. If you want deep human drama, if you want cool monster fights, this just isn't it for you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So you want to move on to Rocketman, which I thought was a way better.
I'm a rocket man. I love this movie. Spoiler alert already.
Rocketman.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah. So just quick question. What are your thoughts on last year's Bohemian Rhapsody?
Uh, so here's the thing. I actually just recently saw it this past week,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, just because I like Queen the band, but I didn't have that much of a connection to them, so I skipped out on it. But
Hmm.
after seeing it now, it's a very messy movie.
Yeah.
It's very I don't know. I can't really explain it, but Rocketman I think is way better than it in that it chooses to focus more on like the real gritty aspects of this man's life.
Hmm.
Bohemian Rhapsody is kind of light with it, and I didn't really
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I thought I watched Bohemian Rhapsody and it was fine. It was enjoyable. I forgot about it instantly afterwards, which is really odd because Queen is my favorite band of all time. They're my favorite musical artist. They put
Yeah.
out some of the greatest songs I've ever heard.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then you watch this movie and it's the most bland and safe approach to Queen.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because they got Brian Singer at first, who is a terrible, terrible person. Um, not just like a terrible filmmaker, just a terrible person in general.
Oh yeah.
And then like Dexter Fletcher, who directed Rocketman, comes in last minute to finish directing the movie, finishes like the last 2 weeks of shooting, and then finishes the post production. And
Right.
just imagine if they got him to direct the entire thing, how much better that movie would have been.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed Rocketman. Um,
Yeah.
that movie was just a blast. They really take a unique approach to like the music biopic formula
I think
because
so.
the whole issue with like music biopics is even though like you cover all these unique people, somehow
Hmm.
they all turn out the same.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's here's them as a kid, here's them learning music, here's them performing in front of people, and then and people realizing how talented they are.
Yeah, here's
Here's them
this.
touring. Here's
Yeah,
them on
here's.
drug addiction.
Yeah, here's this classic song you all know, and this is how it was created. Which you
Yeah,
look at, it's like, no, it wasn't.
yeah. I have so many issues with Bohemian Rhapsody because of that, because they alter facts in a way where I know is wrong. Like they
Mm.
like We Will Rock You was made in 1980. No, it wasn't. 1977. Get your facts right. Oh, Freddie Mercury got AIDS right before Live Aid. No, he
Oh,
didn't.
yeah,
That was like
that
2 years later.
that I knew. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, they're trying to have some emotional payoff with this, but they're just straight up lying now.
Yeah, they are. So that annoyed me. But Rocket Man, I don't know much about Elton John's life. I've only
Yes,
since like only listened to like three of his songs on repeat. All three of them were in this movie: Saturday Night, Rocket Man, and Tiny Dancer. I need to start listening to more of his music because I liked a lot of music in this movie.
I loved it. Tiny
Yeah.
Dancer's my favorite too.
So
Elton
hold me
John's
closer, Tiny Dancer.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So yeah,
but
what were your thoughts on Rocket Man?
yeah, well, I agree with everything you said. My first note was like I loved how they took the formula what we've seen with biopics and they made it unconventional and fresh. Like just the whole way the story is told, Elton John's story, it's from the framing device of him in a rehab meeting. And so like this is it allows us to show the progression of his life from when he was a kid to how he got into music and it allows Dexter Fletcher here to really come in and do some creative things filmmaking wise because something that caught me off guard was this is an actual musical.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
like the thing with Bohemian Rhapsody, it's like here we're just gonna go through the greatest hits here, show you, get your nostalgic feeling here.
Yeah,
This one, the
here's Fat
music's
Bottom Girls. Here's Bohemian
yeah,
Rhapsody. Another one bites the dust. Like,
exactly.
okay, who cares?
It's just it's pretty manipulative, and I think that's why the movie made so much money. But I guess we'll
Mhm.
talk about that in a little while. But with this, like the music's actually incorporated into the story, and it gets really surreal and fantastical at parts. Like,
Mhm.
uh, I forget which song I think he's playing the Crocodile Rock song.
Mhm.
Uh, just like his first performance, and then once it hits like to that the bridge, everybody starts levitating off the ground. It's like, wow, I was not expecting this from this movie.
Yeah, like they
This
go all out with
is
the musical
really
elements.
fresh, and yeah, I loved it. And I think this movie takes a big dump on Bohemian Rhapsody just overall.
Yeah, because I find it interesting. So, have you ever seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. I've seen like bits and clips of it, and like of people like deconstructing and like destroying Bohemian Rhapsody. And
Yeah,
the one big thing is like at the beginning of the movie, Dewey Cox is like standing there thinking about his life, and he's like, "What is he doing?" He's like, "Man, before every single one of his concerts, he has to think about every single moment of his life." And so this movie opens up, and you see Elton John in this like really flamboyant demon costume, and you think, oh, he's about to go out and play a concert, just like the opening of Bohemian Rhapsody, and then it's gonna cut to like the beginning of his childhood, and he walks straight into an AA meeting, and then he's like talking about his demons, the issues that he has,
yeah,
and then it cuts to his childhood, and it goes to show a lot of the issues he faced growing up, how his parents just really weren't there for him, and I was like, well, okay, this is different.
yeah. It's really great. Like it's just great filmmaking and how they construct it. Plus it's told like at such a great pace too. Like they know when to like fast track through certain moments of his life. Like when he goes with his manager and goes out on a shopping spree, they do a musical number for that. But they also know when to like slow it down and pull back so we can explore the characters and Elton John's emotions.
Yeah.
It's a great balance with everything they got going on here.
Mm. Yeah, because I would say my main issue with Bohemian Rhapsody, so like it's just more like a Wikipedia page of Freddie Mercury's life. And so like if I asked you what was Bohemian Rhapsody about, you would say, oh, it's Freddie Mercury. Like, no, what was like the main theme? What was the main through line of the movie? And you could put up a lot of things like how he wrote his songs, or the fact that he was trying to like cope with the fact that he was gay or whatever. Right. And with this movie, it was all about Elton John trying to find love, trying to like find self-love, trying to live in a world where like he felt like his family didn't love him, his love interest didn't love him, and he had to like reach out to his one friend who did actually love him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought like that's what really made this movie interesting.
Oh yeah. And I just love just how they hit it on the head right at the end. Like, I mean, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, which I mean it's Rocketman, so I mean you could just Wikipedia Elton John's life, but
yeah.
It gets to the point, like he said, it's all about loving yourself. And, unlike Bohemian Rhapsody, this one definitely earns, like, its emotional moments, too. Like, you start welling up at certain scenes.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Another thing also, I mean, just on a fundamental basis, they're able to do a lot more than Bohemian Rhapsody because of its rating. This is rated R. Bohemian Rhapsody's PG-13. And this one, it really doesn't shy away from showing all of Elton John. Like, it shows him at his highs and his lows. They don't shy away from his sexuality because he definitely didn't.
Yeah.
It's just something really refreshing to see in a film because I think pretty much, I can say for a lot of musical biopic movies, they kind of like sugarcoat over some certain things. And I'm sure they did in this film, but this one, like, Elton John's the executive producer on here. He wasn't afraid to like show himself in a bad light in this film.
Oh,
like, I was kind of a dick at the low points of my life.
Oh yeah, totally. And I feel like that's like one of the main issues with like a lot of music biopics is like they have a lot of the actual music artists themselves like producing these movies, and so they say, yeah, no, you can't show that moment of my life. I was like a terrible person. That's gonna make me look bad.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's gonna connect to a lot more people if you do show your low moments. If you show, yeah, no, things weren't always great, but I picked myself up and I got back from it, and I'm all the better for it now. Because I guess, do you want to go into spoilers? Because like you could, like you said, we can just Wikipedia this. So spoiler warning, I guess. If you don't know anything about John, click away, go see Rocketman, look him up on Wikipedia. Spoilers. So at the end of the movie, they show that he finally did find love. He found a husband. And even right now, he's on his like farewell tour, so he can like, wrap up his career and then like take care of his kids and his husband. Yep. And they show like, yeah, he struggled through a lot. His parents didn't love him truly. Like they acted like they did, but they actually didn't.
Yeah.
They showed that his connection with his best friend like really helped him through all this,
Right.
and it's just like really powerful message.
Yeah, not. I loved it. Just the whole concept of what is love and who should who's deserving of my love, who should
Mhm.
love me, should I love myself?
Yeah,
Like yeah, like you said, and just like the final nail on the coffin right at the end when he's in this rehab meeting and he's seeing all the people who was influential in his life. Then it pans over to show himself as a little boy,
hmm
and then he goes up to him and says, "Are you gonna give me a hug?" Like everybody in the audience just started bawling, like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's so."
because like I feel like that's the most important thing to take away from this movie, and like that's what's really going to connect with people. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
know, like yeah, getting love from other people is really important, but none of that's going to matter unless you love yourself.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people are going to connect to, and like a lot of that's going to help so many people watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh hey, here's a lot of Elton John's greatest hits. It's also, here's Elton John's struggle, and here's
Yeah.
what he's telling you to love yourself.
Exactly. I think it speaks to that in his music as well, and just to bring it all together into this film here, I think it's gonna be I wouldn't say it's gonna be a definite crowd pleaser as Bohemian Rhapsody, just because, like I said, the hard R rating, and
Mm,
there are sex scenes in here that I think is gonna turn away a lot of people. But I think by the end of it all, you take everything in. It's definitely heartwarming and it's very sweet.
oh yeah. I would say like one of my biggest complaints of the movie is like they show like very little of his marriage to that one lady. I don't
Yeah,
even think they tell us her name. But
yeah.
there's like one scene like he's in the studio recording music. He meets this lady. Next scene they're married. Next scene they're like getting a divorce. I'm like, well, I would have liked to see more of that. If it had that big of an impact on his life, then like I think you should have fleshed that out a bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
There's like a part like in the beginning of the second act, towards the end of the first act, where like they starts like do generic music biopic stuff of here's him playing in front of people, getting loud. Um, here's him touring with like montages of like where he's going and like news clippets.
Hmm.
And I thought that was just uninteresting. But
Yeah,
it's like something I guess you had to put in.
yeah,
Um,
that's the thing. Like, I had the same issue too, whereas like, for as unconventional as the movie is, like, it still does go by the numbers at certain aspects, and it's
mhm,
like we were saying earlier, it's kind of hard to get around because a lot of these artists they lived or went through similar career choices. So
mhm.
I think what saves it for me at least is just like how it's told, how fantastical it gets, but you know, throughout all the smoke and mirrors, it is still pretty by the numbers at parts. I
Yeah.
agree.
But overall, I think this is like leagues better than a lot of the music biopics we've had.
Mm.
Um, I definitely recommend it, whether you're a fan of Elton John's music or not. This is just a really good movie on its own.
Oh yeah. I
Whereas, like, I found like the majority of my, because I like I said, I enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody mostly because their Queen is my favorite band. Although I will admit, like, all the behind the scenes nonsense is messed up. Bryan Singer does not deserve a career.
no.
Um, it's funny because I thought Dexter Fletcher was going to get all the credit for this, and then
Yeah,
I see the movie and it's like directed by Bryan Singer. I'm like,
Bryan
oh
Singer.
snap! I shouldn't have bought that ticket.
Yeah, I'm actually confused as to like how much Dexter Fletcher contributed to the film because if he came
Because
in halfway,
yeah, because he didn't even come in halfway. It was like so they had 2 more weeks of shooting left, and then he just did the
mm,
rest of post production. So
uh,
that means like Bryan
okay,
Singer still did the majority of the movie, and
right.
so he got the directing credit. He got like I think they said he got like 40 million from the movie, which is all kinds of messed up.
I did read about that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like in Superman 2, the Richard Donner he directed the majority of the movie, and then I think
Mhm.
like towards the end of the movie they fired him, got someone else to direct, and so that guy reshot the like 70% of the movie so he can get the directing credits and he can get like the majority of the pay from it. And
Right.
I thought they might have done something like that, and then like when I finally watched the movie, I'm like, oh no, they didn't do that. Oh, okay.
No, it's Hollywood. We reward perverts and just
Yeah.
bad people overall.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, hopefully after, because like there was like such a big blow up after Bohemian Rhapsody, and so hopefully,
Hmm.
and like he even got, I believe he left the Lady Sonia movie, um, and so I don't know where his career is gonna go after this. Hopefully down in the mud. Uh,
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Bryan Singer either, and
Mhm.
I would be okay if I never saw a single one of his movies ever again.
Yeah, 'cause even the first few X-Men movies, like they're okay, they're kind of bland, um, and I don't get the hype around them. Did you say something? I think it cut off.
I'm sorry. I was asked, did he do all three of the first two X Men
He
movies?
did the first two X-Men movies, and then Brett Ratner, another pervert,
Oh,
did X-Men
oh
3.
yeah, yeah, the Last Stand. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And no, Bryan Singer, he did Days of Future Past or no?
He did Days of Future Past, which I think was pretty good, but mostly because like
Yeah,
Matthew Vaughn did like the majority of the pre-production, and then Bryan Singer
right.
jumped on last minute.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that one I still love that one. But
Yeah.
in any case, F. Bryan Singer, I guess, is what we could come out from all this.
Yeah. Hollywood, please stop giving him more movies to direct. It would be greatly appreciated.
But yeah, I guess if we to wrap up this. Oh, actually, something we didn't really talk about. Um, Taron Egerton as Elton John.
Oh,
This
he was
guy
so
is
great.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I know he's really good. He captured all the charisma and like flamboyant nature of Elton John. His singing voice was really good.
Oh yeah, like yeah, he got the essential personality down, and then at the
Mhm.
same time, he's able to show him vulnerable. Like for all the, I mean, Rami Malek, he won an Oscar for
Mhm.
Freddie Mercury. I think
Most overrated performance of last year. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was good, but Christian Bale, I thought should have took that one. I'm just saying for that. But in any case, like for all that buzz about that, I think Taron Egerton, he deserved the same type of recognition for
Oh,
this role here.
exactly. Honestly, more because like Rami Malek did good in Bohemian Rhapsody, but he
Mhm.
only got that award because it was Freddie Mercury,
Yeah,
and like it was a good performance, but like it wasn't anything deep. There are like a lot of other actors who did way better that year.
yeah,
Um, so yeah,
yeah. I'm still confused about that one. I'm actually confused. Bohemian Rhapsody got any type of award recognition at the Academy last year.
yeah, because like the whole thing with Bryan Singer, and then like
Yeah,
the how critically panned it was. I don't understand why he got any of the love. I guess just because it's Queen and Queen is popular.
yeah.
And it made a lot of money. So like if they gave that
Okay.
movie awards, like more people would have watched the Oscars.
Yeah, I think after the Oscar, or maybe it was like around the Oscars season, when it got released in China, it helped push the movie over to $900 million worldwide, which that's insane. But
Oh yeah.
everybody loves Queen.
hmm So any final thoughts on Rocketman?
Yeah, like just overall to wrap it up, this movie is great. I definitely recommend it. Um, I think it's gonna be around a long time for this summer because I don't think there's really anything else like it in theaters coming out soon. So
hmm
definitely check this one out. It's and it's probably came out too early for award recognition, but had it come out in November, I think we would definitely be seeing an Oscar push for this one
Oh,
because
totally.
it is that good.
Yeah. No, definitely watch Rocketman. Amazing music sequences, great choreography. Taron Egerton is great in the role. And it's different from every other bland music biopic you've seen.
Hmm.
So yeah, check it out. And let Hollywood know you want to see more of this. Tell them
Yeah,
with your wallet.
exactly. Oh, and one more quick thing too. Just a little tidbit trivia. I actually noticed since we're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody, how it's similar or how it's connected to this.
hmm
The same dude, John Reed, uh, who is their manager for Elton John and for Queen.
hmm
It's actually played. Well, in this movie, it's played by Richard Madden, who is
Rob
Rob Stark in
Stark.
Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. And then in Bohemian Rhapsody, it's played by Aidan Gillen, who is Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. So
Oh yeah. It's all connected. Game of
yeah,
Thrones, Queen and Elton John, it's all connected.
yeah,
Hashtag Illuminati confirmed.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
What a quinky dink.
Yep.
Yeah, great movie though.
Yeah, really good. So you wanted to transition over to an overall talk about music biopics in general. And I had a really cool pitch for a music biopic. So
Yeah.
so just quick question. What music biopics really stand out to you?
Well, there's actually quite a few that I actually hold dear to me because we've seen a lot uh just in the past few years in general where it's pretty by the numbers where you get the whole career of the person. You see them at their highest, how they struggle, how they make a comeback. But the ones that really stand out to me is where it kind of goes, it transcends through those conventions. So like one of my favorite ones from the past 5 years, Straight Outta Compton.
That one's so good.
Yeah, NWA. Like I mean, my dad, he grew up on that, so by virtue, he had to pass it on to me and my brothers. So you know, he told us all the stories and seeing it how it's portrayed on the big screen and how everything they do in that film. It's fresh, you know. You get good performances. The way the story's told, it feels like a superhero movie. How you get the whole group coming together, each one of them bringing in their strong suits, and you know, you see them drift apart and they're falling out. It's, you know, you could say it's campy, sure, but it actually, you know, I thought it was really emotional how they went through that film and how they all came back together at the end of it all. So now you get films like that. You get Ray's another good favorite one of mine's. I think they do the same type of thing where they're able to navigate through the artist's life and not just give you the quick notes, the cliff notes of their greatest hits and the plot points of their career. They actually get invested into the story, into the character, so you could get a better understanding of them. And I think, yeah, like we saw at Rocketman here, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Get a better understanding of the artist.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stands out for me for Straight Outta Compton is that it's not just a movie about their music or just about them, about the people in NWA, but it's just more about like how their environment inspired their music. Because they grew up in an impoverished neighborhood where they were constantly abused by the police for no reason other than just the fact that they were black. And they faced a lot of police suppression because of that. Even at one of their concerts, they're told you can't play F the Police, and they're like, well, who are you to tell us we can't do that? We're gonna do it anyway.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show how much fans really supported them for that. How like their music went on to inspire a lot of people, and I really like that about the movie.
Let me cut off for a second.
Oh, it did?
Oh yeah. Oh, what you? I'm sorry. Yeah, cut it off.
Oh, you hear what I said?
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically I was just saying how you know, it just goes to show like the environment they grew up in and how that impacted their music and how you know, like they show like in one scene like they're just standing there on the corner and then a bunch of police officers show up and they're like, yeah, no, get on the ground, put your hands behind your back. And immediately after that, and Ice Cube writes F the Police, and it just goes to show how like the environment they grew up in like impacted their music and how like it inspired so many other people to like understand like the type of oppression that certain people are going through in this country. And I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, man. You know, that's also like a big plus of the film, not just to show just the musical biopic aspect of it, but how does it connect into, you know, the world we are seeing today. Like, you know, they kind of, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but they were kind of prophets, like back in the 80s telling us like, no, this is what's going on in these streets here. You're just not seeing it because it's not getting covered until we start singing about it.
And I just find it, there was like one scene that I really liked where like they're being questioned by the press and they're like, oh, why do you sing about all this violent stuff? And like, this isn't like us fantasizing it. It's us talking about what we see every day. Exactly. And, you know, we see drugs from Colombia and guns from Mexico, and I don't have a passport. So
that was a great line, too. Whoever wrote that, definitely, I hope they got paid for their next gig because that was great.
I think they're writing I know the screenwriter who wrote Straight Outta Compton wrote this new movie. What is it called? The Kitchen, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, man. I want to see that movie.
Yeah, that looks really good.
I cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
She's directing it, right?
Is she directing it? I thought she just wrote it.
Oh, she just wrote it?
I think so. Let me check real quick. But yeah, no, like that was like a really good screenplay. Great performances all around. Oh, no, she is directing it.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, that should be interesting.
Nice. I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't remember seeing a lot of music biopics. Like there isn't any that really stand out as like classics that I've been told about. I've probably seen like parts of the Ray movie, the Ray Charles movie. I remember seeing bits and pieces when I was a young kid. I just don't remember a whole lot about like the ones that I have seen. I've seen like a lot of the more recent ones: Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocketman. I remember like straight after Straight Outta Compton, the Tupac movie came out,
Yeah,
and that was like critically panned, and I
I
just
hated
decided
it.
not to watch it.
Well, if I could just jump in real quick as to why something like Rocketman and Compton works, and tell how All Eyes on Me and Bohemian Rhapsody where they fail.
Hmm.
It's for exactly for the reasons we've been saying. Like it just goes through the quick points and the cliff notes of,
Hmm.
okay, this is this person's career. Let's focus on everything the general public already knows, and let's we'll fabricate the facts a bit, make it for the entertainment value of it rather than telling a compelling story.
Hmm.
And yeah, that Tupac movie, it's I give them the performances. The guy who played as Tupac, he was okay, but uh, Dana Guerrera, who plays his mom, she was great in it,
Hmm.
and she's great in everything. Other than that, that movie had nothing to offer for the genre of musical biopics.
Hmm.
I thought it sucked.
But yeah, so just transitioning from that talk, I want to pitch my ideal music biopic.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
someday when I'm directing movies, I'll make this movie. It's a topic that I've like researched somewhat heavily. I've seen a documentary on it. I'm like, yeah, that would make a great movie. Um,
Okay.
and so, Jalen, have you ever heard of the bands Megadeth or Metallica?
I've heard of Metallica. Yes.
Okay, so
Like great.
I'm a huge metalhead. No, I don't worship Satan. That's a big misconception. I don't want to say any of that in the comments. Um, but I love metal. Metallica is one of my all-time favorite bands, and so is Megadeth. So let me give you a brief history of like both bands starting off.
Okay.
When Metallica first started, their lead guitarist was Dave Mustaine, and so they wrote a couple songs, and a lot of those songs are on the first album, but the majority of them were written by their lead guitarist, Dave Mustaine. He came up with
Okay.
like other guitar riffs, a lot of the lyrics, and I'm not sure if he came up with the lyrics, but he came up with a lot of the songs on there.
Mm.
And so right before their band like hit it big, like they were on their way to the studio up in New York,
Mm.
and they're so close to hitting it big. The everyone in the band, James Hetfield, the lead singer, Cliff Burton, the bassist, and Lars Ulrich, the drummer, in the morning they woke up. The guitarist Dave Mustaine, they said, "Hey, wake up, you're out of the band."
Okay.
And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what? Wait, what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, no, you're too violent. You're too much of an alcoholic.
Jeez.
You got no, like he was really bad." And like he even admits it to this day. Like he said, "Yeah, no, I completely understand."
Mm.
Um, and so like they didn't even give him a warning or anything. That's like the thing he said like really made him upset. He says like what? No warning, no second chance. And they just said, "No, get out. You're out." And like they
Wow.
put him on a bus back to LA and he had to go back. And so yeah, there's this great documentary about Metallica when they're writing their album Saint Anger, which is an awful album. That album sucks. But there's like so much stuff going on behind the scenes. And in one of the scenes in the documentary, it's called Some Kind of Monster. I think it's on Netflix. If you want to check it out, I really recommend it. There's one scene where the drummer has to reconcile with Dave Mustaine,
Okay.
and so it's just really emotional. And he's like, "You guys were my family. My mom. All I had was my mom. My dad was awful. You guys were all the family I had at the time, and you abandoned me. You kicked me out."
Right.
And I was watching that scene, and like it really got to me emotionally. I'm like, that could make for such a great movie. So here's what happens after he's kicked out of Metallica. He goes back to LA. He meets up with his bass player, Dave Ellefson, and he starts the band Megadeth.
Okay.
And so, first of all, the title of this movie, I was thinking like, oh, what's going to be the title?
Mhm.
It's going to be called "In My Darkest Hour," which is one of my favorite Megadeth songs. It was the tribute that Dave Mustaine wrote to Cliff Burton, the Metallica bassist, who died in an unfortunate car bus accident.
Ah.
So it's going to be called "In My Darkest Hour," and basically, what I don't want to do like a generic by the numbers of how Dave Mustaine, grew to fame, his
Mhm.
drug addiction because he had like a really bad drug addiction, his
Mhm.
abusive father. That could play like parts of it into the movie, kind of like with Rocketman, where like it was like it played its part, but it wasn't the entire movie.
It didn't oversaturate it.
Yeah. What I want this movie to be about is his growing jealousy of Metallica
Oh.
because
Okay.
all throughout the 80s and the early 90s, no, all throughout the 80s and the 90s, Metallica was big. Like they
Mhm.
wrote hit after hit after hit. They had Kill 'Em All, then Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and then And Justice for All. And then like they got the first music video with And Justice for All off their song One, which is an amazing song, one of the greatest metal songs ever. And then like they hit it really big in the '90s with their Black Album, Fuel, Load and Reload, and Metallica was big, you know, like especially since metal at the time wasn't very big, and like the metal bands that were big were like, you know, like a lot of like the glam metal bands, Motley Crue, Cinderella, basically all these dudes who dressed up like girls and then their songs, and they were very flamboyant songs. They're about like nothing but sex, drugs, all the boring stuff that pop songs are about. Like Metallica wrote real songs, like they were great.
Right.
But the issue for Dave Mustaine was that, like he wrote a lot of great songs. Like he wrote a lot of heavy metal classics, but he was just so upset because he never reached the standard of Metallica. He was mad at them. They fired him. They kicked him out. They were his family, and they just abandoned him. And so he's like, I got to be better than them.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate truth is, Dave Mustaine never was. His music was never as good as Metallica. They never reached the heights of Metallica. Metallica was always number one, and Megadeth always came in number two.
Yeah.
I want a movie about that, about his growing jealousy of Metallica, of how he has like look within himself and realize why he got kicked out of Metallica. Has like deal with his inner demons and stuff. I think that would be really great, and especially since Megadeth is known for like rotating a lot of their band members, because
Right.
they've always had a rotating cast of their drummer and their lead guitarist. They never stuck with just one. You know, the only constants were Dave Mustaine's best friend, his bass player Dave Ellefson, and Dave Mustaine. That's it. Everyone else just got rotated out through the band.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Dave Mustaine, if you're listening to this, I know it's not the most flattering idea for a movie, but it'll make for such a great movie. Let me direct it in the future. Please, please, please.
Yeah, I mean, just the way you pitched it, that actually, I mean, right off the bat, that's a good premise for it. I like the part you were saying how he's actually never really lived up to Metallica. He was always number two, and
It
right
was
off the
always
bat,
number two.
yeah, like right off the bat, there, that's a great concept to focus on somebody who's constantly trying to prove himself to be the best, and
Mm.
at least according to you, kind of falls short to it. Like that's
Mm.
a movie I would actually, it probably would be uncomfortable to watch, and that's like my favorite type of movies to watch.
Yeah. And he goes through a lot of stuff like a lot of the other music biopics go through, where it's like, yeah, his father was abusive. He went through a lot of drug addiction.
Right.
But I think if you make that the main focus, it's just going to be the same. Just focus on Dave Mustaine himself, focus on his growing jealousy of Metallica, focus on how he drives people away, because that was his biggest issue at the time. He got high off all these drugs and highly drunk and stuff, and then people were just repelled by it, and that's why so many people left the band, or he kicked them out the band. And yeah, I just think a movie about that would be really great, and especially for me, because I love Megadeth. They're so good. Dave Mustaine is such a fantastic guitarist and lyricist.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that movie.
So, let me ask you, did you think of who you would like to play Dave Mustaine?
Ooh, that's really interesting, because Dave Mustaine has like such an interesting voice.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. His voice is like really. That's like his sing. A lot of people dislike his singing voice, and I understand why. For me personally, it adds to his songs. Like he has like a very. I don't know. You just have to listen to it. I can't really describe it. But yeah, I don't know who I'll get to play him. Huh? I didn't think that far into it. And the truth be told, I'm really bad at casting. I can't like pitch cast anyone. I know. I just usually see what other people are saying. I'm like, yeah, no, that sounds all right.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I mean,
Um,
but truth be told, I mean, you never really know who's the perfect lead until you have it. So I'd
exactly.
say on your part, because you already got like a cool story around this guy here, just write a spec script for it, see what happens from there.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, I would have to do like a lot more research going into it, but yeah, I think I would totally write the script for this. And like I said, hopefully someday it gets made.
Yeah, shoot. Like I said, that sounds already as for like a biopic, something different, something I haven't seen before at least.
Hmm.
Oh, shoot. That actually sounds pretty damn good.
Awesome. Thank you for your approval.
I like that.
So do you have a biopic pitch you want to say, or any other thoughts on like the music biopic, genre and genre? I can't speak right now. The music biopic, genre in general. Yeah. That's such a tongue twister.
Yeah, right. Not really. I mean, I think he covered. I mean, I really enjoyed your pitch, and you just think of the genre as a whole, see what worked with why certain movies succeeded and see the shortcomings of which biopics failed. Um, Especially the biggest aspect of is, in the words of the great Will Smith, just tell the truth, and
Exactly.
you'll see how far you could get with it.
Exactly. So moving on from there, I guess we'll talk about what we saw this week. Would you like to
Mm.
go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, I actually have two, so I'll say the first one real quick.
Okay.
Um, so I believe it was on Wednesday, the season 10 premiere, favorite shows ever. Archer came back on FX as they moved. And I'll say this real quick, that Archer, the first 4 seasons are just absolutely phenomenal. It's hilarious. John Berthnall, he's just amazing voice acting, great writing in his show. Then after a while, Adam Reed, who's the creator and writer of the show, he got kind of bored with the show, so he wanted to flex out his ideas and take the characters of Archer to new concepts. So I believe season 5 they became Well, they start out the first 4 seasons. They're international spies who worked for a group named ISIS, which they weren't big at the time before the show came out. So the first 4 seasons they're spies. Season 5 they became drug dealers.
Oh wow.
Season 6, yeah, it's such a huge jump, but it's funny when you watch it. Then season 6 they come back to work for the CIA. Season 7 they jump around a lot. They become private detectives, I believe. And spoiler alert, sort of. That's around the time when Archer, something happens to him where he falls into a coma. So these past 3 seasons, season 8, 9, and 10, they've all been inside of Archer's head. These are all dream seasons for him. And that's when the show kind of got off the rails for me, because season 8, it took it back to, I believe it's Archer Dreamland, where it's like a film noir type of thing. Then the last season, season 9, it's like a play on a fantasy island. It's called Danger Island. It's not it wasn't interesting for me. But this new one, now they're doing space travel, and it's called Archer 1999. And for the first episode for the season premiere, the jokes actually hit for me. You got the whole cast back together. They riff off each other well. It's the same raunchy humor that made the first few seasons work so well. And the humor is just really smart and edgy. It's it's only the first episode, so I want to remain cautious about it. But so far, it's coming back on the right tracks for me. So I'm very looking forward to see for the rest of the season what they do with Archer.
Yeah, I hear a lot about Archer. But like, just you telling me it's 10 season, like, do I want to start it? But then again, summer long, so like watch whatever I want. So like maybe I'll check out like the first few seasons.
So if you like Rick and Morty, then I think this one's way more hilarious than it.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I love Rick and Morty.
Yeah, Rick and Morty's hilarious too, but this one, I think it elevates it to something even just more, I want to say sophisticated, but it's smarter humor.
So I guess I'll jump into what I saw this week. I watched the documentary about the last season of Game of Thrones, The Last Watch.
Right.
And I just find it so interesting because season 8 of Game of Thrones just left me in I just didn't care at all. Certain things happened. I should have been more emotionally invested. I just didn't care at all.
Same.
And so I'm watching The Last Watch, and I'm like, how is it this documentary got me more emotionally invested in the ending of Game of Thrones than the actual show did?
Right.
Because it's really a love letter to all the people behind the scenes of Game of Thrones, all the extras, the set designers, the costume designers. There's a guy in charge of snow. I didn't know that was a job until I watched this. You gotta have a guy in charge of snow, and he was really entertaining in this. Like, he had like a really great personality and stuff, and I just found it really interesting. There's a guy in charge of snow. Who knew? The head of snow. And so it's just, I love the documentary so much because you got to see all the stuff these people went through for making the show, because they had the long night, which was weeks and weeks of shooting at night, and the head of the costume design, like she was saying, she really missed her family, and she had sacrificed a lot to be on the show. It's like, do all this work and whatnot. And it does take a toll on her because she wants to be with her family, but at the same time, this is her job. This is what she has to do. And I just found that really interesting. And, you just really got to appreciate how much effort these people put in. And because to put on a show, like that's ultimately meant for our entertainment.
Right.
And they do such a great job. The writing this season was garbage, but everything else was so great. The acting, the set design, the cinematography, just everything else was so good. And you just have to thank all these people for it. One of my favorite people was they follow one of the extras who plays one of the Northerners who follows the Starks, and he's just so interesting because at the beginning of the documentary he's like, yeah, I'm Stark 100%, been following the Starks since day one. I love this show, I love being a Stark man, and it's really interesting. And like I think it ends with him taking off his Stark armor, taking off his costume for the last time because now it's said and done.
Right.
And I don't know. I just got way more emotional at this than I did ever watching season 8.
Oh shoot, making it sound like I gotta check it out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend, especially if you want to go into filmmaking and if you ever dream of making a big blockbuster. This is going to make you appreciate not just like the director and the actors and all that, because like they get a lot of credit, but who doesn't get enough credit are like the people who do all the smaller stuff, the set design, the extras, the people in charge of snow. You just grow to appreciate all of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got into the show pretty late, earlier this year, so I didn't really have to wait that long to get invested into these characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, season 8 was something where it's like, oh man, I definitely felt like I should have had a proper send off, and from what you're describing, this seems like it's the proper send off to everyone on the show here.
Exactly, and like not just the actors, that's everyone who worked behind the scenes, and that's just made it so great.
Yeah, shoot. Well, now that's something that's on my list to watch then. So.
Awesome. So you said you saw one other movie, or show. What was it?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago when we first started this film school snob podcast, you recommended a show to me that you highly praised, and I told you I'd get into it right away. So I did, and that is Barry.
Yes.
Yeah, this past week, started on Monday, I was like, all right, put everything to the side. 16 episodes. I can get through this. Let me watch it. I ended up finishing it after I got out for work on Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
I love this show, man. Thank you so much for recommending this to me because,
you're welcome.
Man, Bill Hader and Alec Berg, you guys rock. I mean, shoot, where do I even begin with this show? It's like you said, it's dark humor, and that really shines so much throughout the entire show because I'm laughing hysterically at a lot of lines, but really it's just the character of Barry, like just how dark and how vulnerable his character is, how they choose to explore him and the situations they place him in. It's like, holy shit, like this is tough.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the whole thing with him in the acting class here. That's where you get most of the laughs from. But by the time we get to the end of season 2, it's like, all right, well, it's thank you for recommending this to me, but curse you because now I have to wait like a whole year to see where we go from here because I don't want to spoil it for anybody in case you guys want to check it out yourselves, but where it ends, it's like, oh, I think we're reaching Breaking Bad territory here.
Oh yeah,
and I don't use that lightly.
Do you want to give a quick spoiler warning? Because I really want to talk about season 2, and just there's so much I want to talk about. I love the endings of that.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, once again, spoiler warning. If you haven't finished Barry, I implore you, please finish it. We're going to talk about spoilers now. This is your final warning. Please go watch Barry. It's amazing. Spoilers starting now. So, I think when I was watching the show, I was texting you and I said, dude, Barry goes to the same character arc as Daenerys Targaryen, just 10 times better.
Oh, yeah.
And it's true, because in the final episode, he goes full mad Barry, mad actor, and in a very similar way to Daenerys in The Bells. And I was so much more invested in it because you saw Barry struggle with killing people and how much that took a toll on him and how he didn't want to do that. And then he finally snapped. He's like, I'm done. All these guys are dying. I don't care. And I was like, holy cow. This is great.
Yeah, I think what helps with that too is because with Daenerys, I mean, we spent 8 seasons with her, and they show like the tidbits and teases of her. She's capable of reaching that dark place.
Mm.
With Barry here, like it was always within him. I really love how they set up this season where they start exploring his secrets and that tragic moment in his life where he, goes and kills the civilian in Afghanistan.
Mm.
That's like kind of his trigger where it's like, holy shit, I am capable of being evil.
Yeah.
So you see where that leads up into the finale there. It's like it finally explodes, especially because like the whole season two, and I knew they were gonna do this where at the end of season one after he kills Moss, he's like, all right, starting now, I'm not gonna kill anybody else.
Mm.
And I was watching the whole season. I was like, holy shit, he's really sticking to it. He hasn't killed a
Yeah, he
single
really
person yet.
does.
Until you get to that point, and it's like, well, I guess he just couldn't help it. And putting myself in his position, Fuchs is an infuriating character. So
Oh yeah.
I cannot stand that guy. So I don't
Oh,
blame.
he is the worst, and like it's really interesting too because like this is the guy he's looked up to as a father figure, and yet
Mm-hmm.
he's constantly dragged him down. He's like constantly put him in this place where it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're gonna have to kill because that's what I want. That's what's gonna make my life better.
Mm-hmm.
And even despite him being a despicable person, he's so funny too.
Oh,
One of my favorite jokes was when he's like, "Oh, you want my DNA? Well, you're not gonna get it. I want a warrant first." And then he puts down the soda can he was drinking, and they just like snatch it up, and he doesn't even know that what just happened.
He's still going off and on and like, so I suggest you get a warrant. They already collected his DNA.
Yep.
It's great. Like Stephen Root, like I've seen him in a couple others. I remember he was in Dodgeball like years ago. It's
Mhm.
hilarious in that movie, and he's great in this. He's actually oh shit, I just put it together. He's in Get Out actually.
Oh, is he one of the people like who are trying like? No, he's the blind guy.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Oh snap!
I was just thinking of his face. I was like, he is in that movie. Wow. Yeah, he's a phenomenal actor, man.
Yeah, he's really good in this.
And speaking on their relationship between Fuchs and Barry, like I think you told me the episode. I believe it was episode 5.
Yeah,
When
Ronnie/Lily.
yeah. So like everybody kind of already hyped it up for me. Like this is one of the best episodes on TV,
Hmm.
and admittedly it is. Like I put this like right next to the Teddy Perkins episode from Atlanta, just
Hmm.
in the scope of like it being a bottle episode, but also really serious and exploring these characters because
Hmm.
that's like the real turning point for Fuchs and Barry, where he finally realizes like, yo, this guy is not good for me. He's like legitimately evil.
Hmm.
I mean, not to mention it's a hilarious episode from
Oh
beginning.
yeah. Because it's really interesting because it comes after episode 4, which is like another great episode where it's like it's really exploring Barry's dark nature,
Right.
and then it continues into this one. It's like it's a lot funnier, but at the same time, it continues that through line of
Yeah.
him like trying not to kill people, of him trying to be the best person he can,
Exactly.
and just like the way the fight is choreographed, it's like it's really funny, but it's also just like a great fight scene in general. You have the guy doing taekwondo, and then like the Pharaoh mongoose child. And I, like it's so fun. Like my favorite part is when she bites Fuke's
Oh,
cheek. Yeah, he's like swat her away, swat her away. I can't. My hands are glued to the steering wheel.
I love the part even before that when he gets out the car and then she like climbs up the tree, gets on the roof, and then Fuchs is just looking and
Mhm.
walks back to the car. Okay, she's not human.
She is. That was like so bizarre because like this show is so funny and then it's so serious at the same time, and then like they had this episode which feels so surreal, but it works 100%.
Yeah. Let me ask, did you are you into the show Atlanta at all or no?
I've seen the first couple episodes. I didn't finish the entire show, but it's like that one episode is very much like the entirety of Atlanta because Atlanta is
Yeah,
like a very surreal show and like it's
yeah,
very not of this world.
exactly. Like it's able to take serious topic matters, inject some humor into it, make it so bizarre and so surreal,
Hmm.
and they really do great in the filmmaking for both these shows. Also, I mean, you
Hmm.
were talking about that fight. The beginning fight. I love how they kind of orchestrated the whole thing. To the reveal of this guy being Ronnie being a Taekwondo Olympic medalist. Like
Hmm.
that was hilarious. And the fight, the way it's filmed and choreographed, like everything in the show, man. I'm just so happy you put me onto it because I want to watch it probably 5 more times before the summer's over, just
No, same
because
here.
of NoHo Hank. He's my favorite character. Just to get his quotes, I will watch the show over and
Oh,
over.
Hank is so funny. Like he's like this like uber flamboyant guy, and he's like obsessed with Barry. He's like his number one fan, and it has the funniest moments. And I just love that character.
50-50 with Cristobal.
He's like, oh no, what about 100%? 50-50 with Cristobal.
I love it, man. I love it. So I'm very much ready for season 3 now.
Same here, man.
Congrats to you guys.
And now you have the acting teacher. He knows that Barry killed his girlfriend.
Henry
and
Winkler.
So that's gonna be really interesting to see where that goes.
And that's once again F Fuchs, man.
Oh no, he's the worst.
Yeah, Better Call Saul had me saying fuck Chuck. Now it's fuck Fuchs because these guys are just scumbags. But
yep.
Yeah, man, I love it. Great show.
It's so good. So I think with that, this is a good place to end this episode. I've been Alexander Cepeda.
And I've been Jalen Michael.
And let us know what you saw this weekend. Did you see Godzilla King of Monsters? Did you see Rocketman? What did you think of it? Which was the better movie to come